Now in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at my team selection ahead of game week 35. And of course, I've got the latest update regarding double game weeks and potential blanks in 36 and 37. Now, starting off today's video, let's take a look at how my team got on in blank game week 34. As kind of the case with a lot of FPL managers, I played my free hit in this game week, and as you can see, it has gone pretty decently. We are on a green arrow currently. We are currently within the top 8k of all players, which is absolutely fantastic to see. So really, really good position for us to be in. Of course, as you can see as well, we do have Brian and Buemo yet to play on Thursday. So if he can deliver the goods as well, it would be very nice. But obviously, if he doesn't fancy turning up, that would also be great because we get Jarrod Bowen off the bench with 9 points. As you can see, the bench has had an absolutely stupendous week. 6 for Cucurella, 11 for Sessegnon. If we'd have had Sarr on there, probably I doubt many people are going to be able to beat that as a bench on a free hit, to be honest. But overall, the team did pretty well. A few players obviously did let us down. Raul, I still think I probably would have gone for that decision. With, of course, Muniz not available for the fixture, I still think I probably would have gone for it. Barnes as well, I was umming and ahhing between him and Murphy. They both came away with the same points, so we didn't really lose too much sleep on that one. And then everybody else, of course, as you can see, did deliver at least something, so I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest. I don't think, as long as we get a green arrow on the free hit, I can't complain too much. We've still got Brian, who hopefully can propel us even further to a bigger green arrow. That would be very, very nice to see. But overall, pretty decent week. I can't complain too much about the free hit team. Looking then at game week 35, of course, we're going to start off taking a look with Rob T FPL's betting data heading into this game week. Of course, if you do enjoy anything that you see on screen right now, head over to Rob's Twitter. He posts some absolutely amazing stuff. Top players for projected goals. Of course, assistant manager points as well, which sometimes we do cover on the channel as well. So if you do want to go and check out his amazing Twitter, I will leave a link to the description. Or if you just want to type in Rob T FPL on Twitter, you will be able to find him as well. So some very, very interesting kind of fixtures this week. Obviously, a lot different to what we had last week, where there was a lot of one-sided games, very high projected goal numbers. This week, it's a lot more tricky, and the bookmakers are potentially struggling a little bit to see really where they want to obviously back their money. I'm quite shocked, to be honest, that Manchester City are the highest team for those projected goals at 2.4. A decent probability of a clean sheet as well, which is very, very surprising. But obviously, if you've still got Marmoush, KDB, Gvardiol, all still going to be pretty decent options heading into that Friday night fixture. I know it says Sunday on there, but it is a Friday deadline. I will, of course, be live from that one, probably around 1:30, 2 o'clock. Obviously, I'll be live till about 4:30. So yeah, if you've got any questions, get yourself along to that one. Everton, obviously, with a decent fixture, they're fancy to do exceptionally well. Obviously, they just don't score many goals at the moment, so probably not the best. I've seen an update from Rob as well since I have made this graphic that there has been a shift in the market for Arsenal in terms of their chance of winning. They have actually dropped after the result in the Champions League last night. So, of course, there might be further movements on these projected goal numbers and, of course, clean sheet percentages, because it is only a 1-goal margin that they are, behind heading to Paris. So they definitely could be able to turn that one. I think the Newcastle-Brighton game could be a decent one as well for Newcastle. Brighton, I really, really don't know how to call, to be honest. And I'm really shocked to see Liverpool at 1.50. I thought they would have been a lot higher, to be honest. Which does maybe me rethink my captaincy decision. There, we'll get it out eventually. With Mohamed Salah right now, that was the player that I said in the transfer targets was the player that I was considering, but maybe I need to rethink that one with only 1.5 projected goals. Of course, another interesting team as well is going to be Brentford and West Ham, obviously playing both Manchester United and Tottenham, who have European football either side of these fixtures, so there is probably going to be quite a bit of rotation within their sides. Brian Mbeumo seems like one of those players I think I'm going to have to maybe bite the bullet on and try and find a way to get him in my side. He could be one of the big players that does obviously decimate our rank if he does go off, and I definitely could see that happening against Manchester United, who are absolutely abysmal defensively. But I do have the big differential in Jarrod Bowen, however, slightly less goal involvement numbers projected for West Ham for that fixture, but I still feel quite comfortable having Jarrod Bowen in my side. I think it is all dependent if Manchester City get that double confirmed for game week 36, because if it's not the case, I might genuinely drop KDB and move to Brian and Mbeumo this week, because I do just think, Brian is going to be one of those big hitters that could absolutely decimate my rank. I've seen a lot of people talking about him in terms of captaincy as well for this week. So I think he is going to be one of those big boys if you are in a decent position in terms of rank or maybe top of your mini league with all your mates. Brian could be that pick that you're going to need to have because he could do some serious damage if, of course, you don't have him heading into this game week. Obviously, I spoke about it there briefly, the double game weeks. We do obviously have an update from Ben Krellin, and this is what he has provided. There is a small potential chance that there could actually be no doubles or blanks coming up. That is genuinely a possibility that could happen. But let's read what he's put so far. So Manchester City versus Bournemouth and Palace versus Wolves will have to move from the weekend of game week 37. They could either go into the midweek of game week 36, making that, of course, a double for Manchester City, Bournemouth and Palace and Wolves, or it could go into the midweek of game week 37, which he has said is more likely. And if that was the case, it would mean then that we would have a very similar situation to what we've had this week, where Forest didn't blank in game week 34, but didn't play on the weekend of game week 34, if that makes sense. So obviously they're playing Thursday this week, but the rest of the fixtures happened at the weekend. That is a very similar situation we could get heading into game week 37 with Manchester City, Bournemouth, Palace and Wolves for their fixtures. Now there is obviously another ultimatum that is still yet to be decided. Spurs have requested that the Villa versus Spurs fixture be moved to the weekend of 37 to the midweek of 36, so they don't have to play on the game of the Sunday before the potential UEFA Europa League final on the Wednesday. It's not a problem for Manchester United because they're already playing on Friday, so they've obviously getting a pretty lengthy break anyway. But Spurs are requesting that their game on Sunday, because, you know, that would only give them Monday and Tuesday to obviously recover and obviously travel to Bilbao where the final is, before, you know, taking part in this final. And I do feel that, you know, is a very fair request. However, Aston Villa have flat out rejected this. They've said they don't want it to move. So, you know, there's still a lot of wiggle room to obviously decide what these two teams want to decide to actually do in terms of fixtures heading into this week. But I do imagine we're probably going to get an announcement before the game week 35 deadline. Ben Krellin has also said that because these fixtures are 2 to 3 weeks away as well. So they're going to have to give fans a good period of notice before moving these fixtures, because of course people will be booking train tickets, hotels, all that, etc. with these fixtures in mind. So they're going to have to make a decision before game week 35, you would imagine. But like I said, we could potentially have a double in 36. We potentially could have no double in 36. But then at the same time, we could just have a weird sort of arrangement in 37 that we've had this week. That is very, very possible. But overall, still a lot of it is up in the air and yet to be decided from the Premier League. So we're going to have to wait and see what updates we do get over the next few weeks. But that's kind of the current predicament that we are in. So my honest advice would be hold the transfers for as long as possible before Friday. We might get an announcement on potentially Friday afternoon, maybe while the deadline streams are taking place. That could cause absolute chaos if that does happen, but that could be the position that we are in. So my honest advice for right now is just sit on your hands, don't make any transfers, close the app, don't even look at your team for now, right? Then obviously when we get to Friday, if we've still not heard anything, then we can start to make our moves, start to make our transfers, and kind of predict that there aren't probably going to be any double game weeks or potential blank game weeks coming up. So it's a lot easier to potentially navigate, and of course, you know, then not kind of have triple captainships or assistant managerships to probably play in double game weeks, which is a little bit of a shame if you've obviously kept them to that point. You were probably hoping for a little bit more chaos, but it is looking likely that there probably isn't going to be actually anything, which is a little bit disappointed. I would have liked one more to obviously cause a little bit of chaos, but that is the current situation that we're in. Obviously, Ben Krellin is going to be your man if there is any updates, or of course making sure that you are just across Twitter and the social media if there are any updates towards those fixtures. But yeah, like I said, sit on your transfers for now. Do not make any moves, in my personal opinion. Let's move on then before we head into my team selection for this game week, and it is going to be talking about captaincy, who to potentially go for. The Fantasy Football Hub does have Mohamed Salah, as captain, or the top predicted points player for this game week at 6.9. He is a very, very interested option and a player I would definitely be considering. But then we've got a plethora of players, Saka, Palmer, Isak and Buemo, who all for me realistically definitely could be decent captaincy options. The big thing that does worry me with Mohamed Salah, of course, was those low projected goal numbers that we did see from Rob T, FPL, and the betting market. However, I would say that Mohamed Salah definitely seemed juiced up after Liverpool winning the title. He was very much like, I want to break this, all-time Premier League goal involvement record. That's what he wants to go for. Obviously, he's still sort of in some sort of conversation for Ballon d'Ors as well, and you feel if he absolutely goes and smashes every Premier League record in terms of goal scoring and goal involvement, it definitely puts him in terms of a conversation for that as well. So I still think, even though Liverpool have won the league title, this man is still going to be looking to kind of build up some personal accolades towards the end of the season and obviously show Liverpool why they signed that new contract. So for me personally, I think I'm still going to go with Mohamed Salah in terms of my captain just because of the position I'm in terms of rank. But obviously, if you are chasing, I probably would be looking at the likes of Isak and Mbeumo. I spoke about Saka and Palmer in my last video where I said those two players for me realistically would not be looking to invest in, especially not with captaincy, and probably in the case of Cole Palmer, definitely be looking to actually offload him rather than obviously trust him with captaincy and big decisions like that. Isak and Mbeumo, definitely my more interesting picks in terms of potential differential captains if you're quite a way back. Obviously looking to chase rank. We saw with the Brentford projected data as well, 2.05 for their projected goal numbers, which is pretty decent to see. So Bryan Mbeumo could be one of those players that could go off. He's very, very capable of a double-digit haul as well, so it would not surprise me. And maybe if he looks really good on Thursday, it could potentially tempt a lot of managers who are chasing rank to potentially take that punt on Bryan Mbeumo. But for me personally, like I said, holding, I'm going to go with Salah. If you're chasing, probably look at Isak and Mbeumo in my personal opinion. Now let's head on into my team selection for this game week. Wasting no time, let's dive into my team selection then. Starting off first with our goalkeepers and defenders. We're going to play, obviously, David Raya this week and both William Saliba. There is a 42% chance currently on the bookmakers data that Arsenal will keep a clean sheet for this one. I think both of these players obviously are important to Arsenal's Champions League campaign. However, both pretty, unlikely to be dropped in my personal opinion. Obviously, we'll wait for, predicted lineups before obviously making that choice. But for me personally, both of these guys are going to be within my side, and I do fancy them to do quite well at home against the at the Emirates with a 42% chance of a clean sheet for that one. I really, really don't know how to call the Crystal Palace Nottingham Forest game. Neither do the bookmakers, to be honest. And Munoz is one of those defenders where it doesn't really matter that he doesn't really keep a clean sheet, to be honest, because he just plays like as a winger most of the game. His underlying data has been really, really good this season. If you watch him from an eye test perspective, he is absolutely magnificent. I would rather play him than go for the triple up in terms of Arsenal players because, like I said, there's probably going to be a rotated side, so it probably does put a lot less kind of confidence within the back line. And obviously Konza at Fulham, I don't really know how to call Fulham, so I probably would just go for the attacking option there in Munoz. City at the top side for predicted clean sheets for this week with their home fixture against Wolves. Gvardiol, the main reason that I do like him and Diaz is usually they're playing in a back four with two players that are midfielders in the game. So if they do keep a clean sheet, it's probably going to be a split in terms of bonus if it's a tight game between either Gvardiol or Diaz for 3-2 bonus as well. So that is why I like both of these guys as well. Of course, we're not expecting too many attacking returns from him. And at the moment, like I said, with the double game week potentially in the air, I would still like to keep myself in a position where I, of course, do have Gvardiol. In terms of my bench defenders, we've got Ezri Konsa and Kivior, both decent options, but I think the defenders that we have selected here and the outfield players are much better in my personal opinion. Next up is going to be Saar off the back of a very, very strong FA Cup performance for Crystal Palace. Again, I just really don't know whether or not to go potentially for him or Morgan Rogers. I know for a fact if I bench Morgan Rogers, he's going to get himself double digits. I know if I bench Saar, he's probably going to get double digits. So I'm kind of left in a catch 22, is it called? So I think I'm going to probably do this one on the deadline and potentially go for the holy coin flip. Obviously, if you've been in the deadline streams, you know that this coin right here is the one that decides a lot of decisions that are usually 50-50 splits, and I definitely feel this is another case of that, to be honest. I mean, being triple Palace doesn't feel great at the moment and not a position I would ideally like to be in, But of course, there is still that sniff of a potential for a double. And again, it does put us in a pretty decent position if that was to be the case. So Sarr, for me, remains within the squad. And off the back of that recent performance in the FA Cup, is going to start the team. Jarrod Bowen's recent performances have been absolutely stupendous. 1.75 projected goals as well for West Ham on the betting markets. They're really, really fancied as the favourites heading into that fixture. Bowen has the talisman theory as well. He's absolutely ridiculous. Usually if West Ham score, he's got some sort of involvement in there. Was quite high up on the projected points list as well, if you do cast your minds back to that one. I would prefer to have Bryan Mbeumo in there. But for right now, I do think, Jarrod Bowen, he's still a pretty decent option. He's still getting those attacking returns, but not quite at the same level as Bryan Mbeumo with those double-digit hauls. But still a very nice differential, under 10% owned to take into game week 35. Salah, top of the predicted points on the Fantasy Football Hub. He's going to be my captain. Pretty easy decision for me, to be honest, with the rank that I'm at. KDB... Obviously, he had that mega point score, then the double, and it's not really been the same. So he's definitely one of those contenders that if City don't get the double game week confirmed, potentially could be on the chopping block for a Bryan Mbeumo if that, like I said, that double isn't confirmed. But do I really want to take him out ahead of Wolves at home? Such a great fixture in terms of those projected goals. Maybe not, but maybe it's one of those where I do fear the effective ownership of Bryan Mbeumo too much that I do succumb to, of course, taking KDB out and move into Bryan Mbeumo. Obviously, we spoke about Morgan Rogers already on the bench. Could be a coin flip on that one, whether or not he does start in my team for me personally. Mateta, again, if Palace don't get that double game week, he could be another player that does make way. We probably could move to a Visser or a Cunha, in my personal opinion, to probably obviously try and free up some funds to go and get Bryan Mbeumo for this run that obviously Brentford are about to go on. But yeah, he's another player that I am obviously eyeing up to move, but I'm still waiting on information regarding potential double game week. So for right now, we are just, like I said, going to sit on our hands. Isak, I imagine his probably effective ownership is going to be like plus 100. I imagine a lot of people are going to look at him in terms of a differential captain as well, if people are chasing rank as well. So we're probably looking at another week where we just need to have Isak rather than, of course, just have him in this, not have him, if that makes sense. We need to have him just to kind of keep him at bay, really, rather than not have him and then get absolutely destroyed. I hope that does make sense. And then finally, the final option is going to be Marmoush. He was very high up as well on the predicted points, with, of course, Manchester City having decent projected goal numbers, projected goal numbers on the betting market as well. Again, for me personally, probably just going to be a player that I'm very happy just keeping within the side for now. And again, still just going to be sitting on my hands waiting for this decision, because that's what this team really feels like at the moment for me. Is it's a lot of just sitting on our hands, waiting for information before, of course, we do make any moves. I really would like Bryan Mbeumo. I really would like Cunha. I really would like Visser within the side. But of course, it is all dependent on what information we do get ahead of the game week 35 deadline. I'm very tempted just to roll this week, then maybe look to make a double move next week and really attack the remaining few fixtures of the season. And -4 potentially could be on the cards as well. But for right now, with the limited information we've got regarding doubles and blanks in 36 and 37, I'm not, for me personally, going to take any risks and just kind of sit and wait. Like I said, if there are any updates, I will obviously post on Twitter and, of course, in the deadline stream on Friday as well, which will probably start around 1:30, 2-ish. I will obviously be going through my team and obviously get any information, talking you through my transfer plans and my transfer decisions. That is going to conclude today's video. Of course, if you did enjoy it, make sure you're liking, commenting and subscribing, as it is massively appreciated by myself. And thank you for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in game week 35.